Welcome to the Blackout Show, presented by The Guillen Grid, a show about the Chicago White Sox baseball, the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll debate what's working and what's not on the south side of Chicago. It's old school versus new school baseball. And most importantly, we're keeping all the receipts.
And welcome into the Blackout Show for Chris Gonzalez, for Ozzie Guillen Jr., for Jay Targaryen, Justin Lee. I am Slavko Bekovic. Thank you for joining us. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, Sox right now up 2-0 against the Dodgers on ESPN, a national game. We're just going to bring in your mom's favorite player, your wife's favorite player, your girlfriend's favorite player. It's Scott Podsednik joining us for this edition of the Blackout Show. Scotty Pods, thanks for joining us, man.
Is he on mute?
Not anymore.
I am.
You're good. You're good.
Queen right about now.
Yeah, it's a late night for you down in Texas.
Yes. Usually,
you watching this game?
This hour.
Well, the most important thing that we need to know is how you shot on the golf course this morning.
Slav, it's starting to come around. I was right around a 79 today. It's an easy course. I know it. I've played with a buddy quite a bit. So I struck it okay, putted decently. So I'm seeing light. I'm seeing the light.
We thought for a little bit that we were seeing a little light for the White Sox team, but a rough series against the Marlins. I know you were in town covering that game for NBC Sports, doing pre and post game. An interesting series, kind of a letdown by the bullpen. You know, you thought the Sox had some momentum. Just big picture, where do you see this White Sox team standing right now?
Over the last 3 weeks, they've been playing better baseball up until a couple of late inning mistakes in that last series. But I think as a whole, starting pitching has been a little bit better. The bullpen has turned things around. Graveman, Kelly, they've been throwing the ball up to their capabilities. I do think there's room for improvement on the offensive side of the baseball. I think for a few games, the only runs they scored were by the home run. I'd like to see their situational hitting improve a little bit. I'd like to see more walks. Their chase percentage, I think, Slav, is still one of the worst in the league. They swing at so many pitches outside of the strike zone. I think one of the most fundamental things of hitting is swinging at pitches inside the zone. If you're not, it's going to hurt you multiple ways. One, you're not going to get on by the walk. Two, you're just not going to be able to do damage. I mean, you can't. You go look at ESPN every night, and the home runs are hit in the middle of the plate. And that's where all your damage comes. And you just can't do anything if you're swinging at pitches outside of the zone. So I'd like to see that clean up a little bit. They've been catching the baseball. Defense has been well the past couple of weeks. So that's right when everyone was coming together healthy. But then, we had Aloy go down. So, I'm tired of talking about the health and the injuries, but this group needs to stay together for an extended period of time to see what we have so they can try to, build some chemistry, some continuity. Everybody has a defined role so they know what's expected of them and they can go out and try to show some consistency.
So you mentioned the starting pitching. The pitching in general has been much better of late. The one guy who's kind of at the back of the group, and he's just not been able to figure it out. Is Lance Lynn. Another rough first inning last night against the Dodgers. Do you remember in your playing career playing against a guy or with a guy who struggled so badly like Lance Lynn has? I think his ERA in the first inning this year is almost 11.
Ooh.
I can't recall, and it doesn't make much sense for a guy like Lance Lynn, a veteran. He's been around. He knows how to get himself prepared. It's one of those things I can't wrap my head around, Slav. Just can't seem to. I don't know if it's a feel thing. I don't know. If his pitches, if he's not completely loose. I don't know, but the first inning is killing him. You take the numbers he's put forth after the first inning, and he's been more than solid. So the guy knows what he has to do. I'm sure he's working tirelessly to try to get a hold of it, but the Sox are going to need him down the stretch to throw better than he is right now.
Yeah. Scott, I'm not going to lie right now. I remember staying up all night as a 13-year-old when y'all brought a championship home. I was really happy when you got named to the All-Star game in 2005. It was kind of strange because statistically you were better for the Brewers previously. Then you come to the Sox and you hit less home runs. You steal about 15 less bases. What was the key for you in regards to less is more, going from 2004, a bad team, Brewers, going to the 2005
I had
champions?
a good rookie year in 2003, and then I show up my second year, and I said to myself, if I can put forth that rookie year, I think I hit 314, scored 100 runs. I think I stole 43 bases. I said, if I can do that as a rookie, then my second year, I should be able to do more. Right. Which was just
Baseball's easy.
Right. So I heard that, they were going to try to make adjustments, start pitching me in a little bit. And I said, okay, well, I'll counter that. And I started trying to pull the baseball. And I did hit, I think, 12 home runs that second year, but I hit 245. My average dipped significantly. Mm-hmm. I did steal 70 bases, but I just was not the offensive player I was the year before. I come over to the White Sox. I meet with Greg Walker, our hitting coach, and he says, you got to find left field again. I got pull happy. I was rolling over everything, and I needed to find the center part of the field and the opposite part. Started working with Mike Gellinger and Greg Walker, and I kind of found my stroke, got back. I wasn't worried about driving the baseball. I just tried to reach base, tried to get myself in the scoring position, and had a little bit better year than I did in 2004. I think I hit around 290 in 2005. No home runs in the regular season, but that was kind of my approach. I was doing everything I can to reach base and then to get myself into scoring position. Fortunately, that ended up working for that lineup we had.
Oh, yeah. Gonzo's muted.
Gonzo. He gets so nervous around famous people.
Pods, we appreciate you being with us on the show.
You bet. You bet. Thanks for having me.
I want to ask you, who was the toughest pitcher to go up against and also the most difficult to run on as a base runner?
The guy that pops into my mind was Randy Johnson. I was hitting from the left side, and I had problems with Randy Johnson. He was an intimidated figure out there on the mound, and I don't know. I think I did get one hit. It might have been a triple against him, but I just had no shot on Randy Johnson. He would throw that slider. It looked like a fastball, and I just couldn't do anything with him. In terms of moves to first base, the guy that stands out was Andy Pettit. He had a really good move to first base. You really had to adjust what you were going to do, and I really couldn't find a key. It wasn't about reading him. I was just going to try to pick a spot, risk it, and hope he was going home because I was going first move on Andy Pettit. You can't read him. He was just so fine and so good that I would just try and pick a spot and hope I was right.
Junior's got a question for you.
No,
you never know
so-
where he's gonna go. You never know where he's gonna go.
No. So I'm actually was looking up some things because my statement, I wanted to make it right because it's off of what Jay's saying, and I'm going to ask him because it's based on this team. So Scotty Pods, when he was with Milwaukee, that was a Net Yost team that won like less than 70 games. They weren't very good.
No.
So Scott was just like playing. I think when it comes to the Sox, it's expected for him to win, and there's kind of more of a change on the, like they're asking him not to just be a freelancer, but now he's got to be a part of this core. How much different is it for a player's career to play in a team that's going in and expecting to win every day, like this team is now, than playing when there's no expectations?
Yeah, that's a good question. And my mindset in 05 was totally different than it was in 03 and 04. I was still relatively young. It was my first year in the big leagues in 03. Ozzy, I didn't know what I was doing, really. I mean, I was so excited to be in the big leagues. You know, I'd grinded 9 years in the minor leagues before I finally broke in. So I find myself in the big leagues, and I told myself I'm going to try to do everything I can to stay here. I was still raw. I still didn't know exactly who I was as a player. I knew my skill set, but I just wasn't a polished player. By the time I got over to the Sox in 05, I somewhat understood who I was as a player and how I could most benefit a club. And coming over, I remember Kenny Williams talking to me, said, hey, you know, and Walk for that matter, about my offensive approach, said, hey, we just need you on base. You find your way to first base. You're going to have the green light. You try to get yourself in a scoring position, and we're going to be okay. And I remember putting a little bit of pressure on myself because Ozzy was wanting to change the offensive attack a little bit. I think the year prior, gosh, they just mashed the ball out of the ballpark and really didn't gain anything from it. So he wanted to get back to a small, you know, we call it smaller ball, but just playing baseball, moving runners, situational hitting, stealing a base every now and then, getting guys over. So I remember putting some pressure on myself, saying, hey, they're bringing you over here to be a piece to get this thing going. But I embraced it. We had a Gucci hitting behind me. We had a good group of guys, and we just hit the ground running. In spring training, we had no idea what this lineup was going to be like together. You know, AJ was new, Tadahito was new, Jermaine Dye was new. So we had no idea how it was going to work out. But after, you know, a few weeks to a month, we felt like we had something there by the way, the resiliency we showed, by the way, you know, we could go out and get our tails kicked one night, but then show up to the ballpark the next day, completely flush it, and then come back with a new mindset. And Ozzy had a lot to do with that. I remember one of our first losses, you know, all the TVs are off, the music is off, everybody's kind of somber. He comes out and says, what the hell are y'all doing? Y'all think we're going to win every baseball game? He cranked up the music, you know, kind of pumped some life. And that was just kind of the way we went about it. That's not how all clubs did it. That's not how we did it in Milwaukee. But that particular style happened to work for that group of guys we had in there.
Yeah. Slav, I want to go back to TA for a second because you guys are two very different leadoff hitters, but I personally think TA.
You just called Pod Slav. I was not a leadoff hitter.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm 100% sure.
Pod, you were the more patient guy at the one spot. You worked the count. TA still haven't had the opportunity to find that role within himself. What do you think it's going to take? Is it something he has to work on individually? Is it something that comes throughout, trial and error in time? What's it going to take for him to get that concrete approach like you had?
Yeah, I think, there's no one right or wrong way to lead off a baseball game. I think what a player has to do is take a look in the mirror, look at his own skill set, look at his strengths, his weaknesses, what he's good at, how he's best going to affect the ball club. And I finally realized that, I'm not going to hit the ball out of the ballpark. I'm going to have to get on base, use my legs, to get myself into scoring position. I felt like taking pitches and trying to get that guy to throw as many pitches early in the ball game to show the guys behind me what he has. I thought there was value in that. So I was going to go up and just try to be a pesky hitter, try to see as many pitches as I can, with the intent of doing everything I could to reach base. Now, there were times when I'm going up, your Greg Maddoxes and your guys that are around the plate. I swung at the first pitch occasionally, but that was my plan. I mean, I looked at who I was facing, and I might feel like, hey, I'm going to have to get after him and attack early. And everybody's different, and personality plays a role in that. Tim has the ability to hit the ball out of the ballpark a lot more than I had. So, him swinging early and being a little more aggressive, sometimes when you take the aggressiveness away from a hitter, you kind of you take away some of his strengths. So I think Tim's going to continue to learn how he's going to best suit a ball club, and who knows, he may find himself hitting 2, 3, or 4 or somewhere else in the lineup. But you bring up an interesting point, because it's the leadoff spot is different than it was 15 years ago.
Absolutely.
And I don't see too many guys going up, working counts, and trying to get to first base any way they can. There's guys that are hacking in that first spot these days.
Joey Gallo is leading off these days, Pop.
All right. Yes, it's interesting. But, the thought was, hey, get these guys as many swings as they can and see how many they can pop out of the ballpark.
Paz, when you see TA struggling like he has been, really for basically the last calendar year, even before he got hurt last year, we know, there's off the field stuff that he's dealing with. And unfortunately for him, stuff with social media and TMZ and all that, it all becomes very public. And it's very tough, I'm sure, for him to have to answer some of those questions and deal with that very publicly, while also still trying to be a good teammate and a good baseball player. And, he puts pressure on himself to be the guy who leads this team on the field. Maybe not in the clubhouse or the vocal leader, but we all know if TA is playing well, then the White Sox are probably playing pretty well. How difficult do you think it is for him in this situation currently? He doesn't seem to be – everyone handles struggles differently. Everyone handles adversity differently. But it seems to be almost snowballing for him. And how difficult is it, in the public eye to be having these off-the-field things? Are you able to separate those on the field, or once you get into the ballpark? He said on the podcast, he was on the Pivot with Ryan Clark and a few former NFL guys, and basically said, that's his happy place. And he's able to go – to work, so to speak, go to the ballpark and kind of forget about that stuff. But it certainly doesn't seem like he's the same kind of loose, free. And it's hard to be loose and free when you're not hitting 320 like he's accustomed to.
Yeah, I agree with you. Timmy doesn't look like he's in a real good place right now, meaning it doesn't look like he's having fun. 2 or 3 years ago, he was playing the game with an edge. He was electric. And it was the rest of the club was feeding off of that. Something's bothering him, whether it's whether he's taking what has happened to him off the field to the field, or he's just not accustomed to hitting 250. He's such a good hitter. But yeah, this isn't the same Tim Anderson we saw a couple of years ago. The Sox need TA to get going. I remember talking, and you and I talking about the splits when TA gets on, or when he steals a base, or when he has 1 or 2 hits. The numbers were just lopsided, and it was, if he drove that ball to right field to lead off a game, you almost just automatically knew he was going to score that first inning and provide life. I went through a divorce after my career, and I'll tell you, it was one of the toughest things that I had ever been through. I can't imagine me going to the park and having to play through all of that. It's got to be tough, especially now with social media and all the distractions the technology is for you out there. It has to be managed, but all Tim can do now is understand where he is and try to make the best choices he can moving forward. He can't change anything now. All he can do is make the right choices and try to go out and handle his business on and off the field.
Hey, Pods, I know you and Chuck on NBC to start the season discussed the new rule changes and how that's going to affect with the pitch clock and everything with the base runners. But now that we're 58 games into the season, have you had a change of perspective or want to highlight anything in particular to the new approach of the game or the lack of base running, really?
I love the new changes. I think the tempo and the pace of the games has been great. Man, Chris, I'd have been licking my chops with those bigger bases back in the day, and then the two step offs from pitchers. But stolen bases are up, aren't they? Significantly from last year. I haven't looked as of late, but I think guys are running much more than they are.
It's tough to gauge it just because I know that A's guy he's got so many. Ruiz, I think he has so many stolen bases just in himself.
He got 34.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a weapon. You know, I would like to see the White Sox running more, especially now that the offense hasn't been clicking. But you have to have guys that can steal bases. But I do think the White Sox have some guys that run well enough to steal bases. Benintendi, I think he leads the team right now. He can steal a base. Timmy he's got 5 or 6. Luis Roberts has 3 or 4.
4, yeah.
4.
The team leader with the White Sox is, I think, Andrus and Benintendi have 7. As a team, they're like 86%. I think they're second in baseball. Mm-hmm. So they should be running more, but they're like 21st in total stolen bases. So there's clearly a disconnect.
Yeah, and the on-base percentage isn't probably as high as it would be. They don't walk. You know, they swing at a lot of first pitches, a lot of quick outs, and I think they're among kind of the bottom tier when it comes to walks. So the on-base percentage needs to improve. Like I mentioned earlier, most of their runs were coming by the home run. And when you're not putting guys on with the walk, you know, it's just going to be tough to string, especially with these guys now with some of these arms. It's going to be tough to string 3, 4, 5 hits together in an inning.
It just seems like even Grifol is just trying to take more advantage of his aggressiveness later in the games than early on. Is that what you've seen too, or with the inconsistencies as well? Like, I guess it is hard to deal with that as a manager, with how the team's facing their inconsistencies.
Yeah, you got to kind of see, you know, where you are, who's on the mound. I mean, every situation is different depending on who's behind the plate, who's in the batter's box, who's on the mound. But given the right situation in a tight ball game, I have no problem with having a guy take a risk to try to get himself in scoring position. Obviously, you do all your homework. You know, you try to prepare as much as you can. You know, how the guy's moving, times to home plate, things of that sort. But, you know, if you do your preparation, get out there and let it fly and take a risk. Why not?
Scott, I got to ask you a question because a lot of people always ask me this, and I honestly don't know because I could care less back then about this sort of thing. Did you have a sign when you were going to steal? Did they even give you a sign? Did Joey at that time it was Joey. Joey was the third base coach when you got there. Did you have a sign to steal, or did you have go whenever you want to go, Pods?
I had the green light, but Joey would he could stop me. So like on 2-1, if I wanted to go, or let's say 2-0 or 2-1, if Ozzy didn't want me running, Pora would give me a sign, whatever it may be, like we're not running that pitch. But then after that pitch, green light again, unless I get that sign. So,
because I've asked Moncada that, for example, I've asked Moncada straight up, does Grifol give you the green light because you need to go get caught stealing? Mm-hmm. Because in spring training they ran more than they did during the regular season. So I know some managers like to give the steal sign. Others want to control the running game.
Right.
So, and I did not know. Someone asked me, said, "Well, what did Ozzy do?" And I said, I don't know. I really don't know. So I'll ask Scotty Potts because he's the number one runner they ever had. So that's probably what they went with. So now we know the truth.
Yeah, green light.
Green light.
But if he didn't want me to run that pitch, it was usually at that time. I remember it was a belt. I think if he went to his belt, not running that pitch. But he has to give me the belt the next pitch to shut me down as well. So it was just that pitch.
Oh, how simple, a belt.
Yeah.
And so the year before, so in 2004, I stole 70 bases, but I still didn't completely understand the impact I could make on a club. I remember we're about 3 or 4 weeks into the 2005 season. And I remember I got on by a walk or a base hit, and catcher called time to walk out to talk to the pitcher. And I'd already been running. I stole quite a few bases. And this light bulb went off. I'm standing over there with Tim Raines, and this light bulb went off in my head. And I said, you know what? This is what you're here to do. You're here to get in his head. You're here to change the tempo of the game. You're here to sway his attention. So Gucci can get pitches to hit. So Konerko can get pitches to hit. So I realized and learned that I didn't necessarily have to steal a base to impact the game. I could be over there and just the threat of me running and get that guy thinking about me. I could have an impact on the ball game. And at that time, the American League Central, I don't think had a big base stealer the previous few years. So I think the timing was great for all of us. I think we caught the American League Central by surprise.
And I love the fact, I'm going to say this because being on the dugout, whenever the team was behind or they needed something and the offense, Scott got on base, guys were like, okay, like this is now, like they were like, okay, we're ready. Like this is like this is our sign. Like this is our sign. Like we have hope. So and that's great because I really believe that. I really believe the threat, and I really wanted this team with the rule change because the number one threat I think of any base runner is the ability that they think that you're going to run, so that they start changing their whole game plan, and that's like from like little league to like the big leagues. And when you don't run, that's not in the scouting report. So the scouting report for you was always like he's going to go at any in any given moment. Yes. So I think that definitely and people don't realize when the White Sox started struggling. If you look at Scotty's injuries or when he was out, it was very correlated to that because that transition was, because that was the catalyst of the success that had been built. And again, that's the pressure on, when you have someone like that. So that's awesome, though. I wanted to ask that question.
And after we kind of found our identity offensively, which we had professional hitters, Jermaine, Konerko. I mean, if there was a guy on second, nobody out, they're trying to drive the ball the other way. And look, we could hit the ball out of the ballpark, but I mean, I remember when I would steal a base, the fans loved it and they were energetic. And I remember, when I got on and stole a base, I just felt something. I felt the offense just come alive a little bit. And what you talked about, you could feel it. It became a thing. Hey, Podsednik's on, like, we're going. We're going to score. AT started calling me 1-0, and I loved it. I got on first, and the plan was steal a base, have a Gucci get me over there, and then sack fly. We're up 1-0 in the first inning. And that was kind of our thing. And I felt it as well. And I embraced that. I mean, my whole mindset was trying to be the igniter, try to be the energy, and try to get the offense going. That was what I showed up to the ballpark each and every night to do. Try to reach base that first inning, steal a base, and provide energy. Because, when the fans get going, the players love it. When there's energy in the ballpark, the players love it. And I remember at mid-season, after I started, I was stealing quite a bit. I'd get over there, and after 2 or 3 pitches, there'd be a fan yelling, "Podsednik, let's go! What are you waiting on?" And I love that. Everybody in the ballpark knew I was going. Pitcher knew I was going. Catcher knew I was going. That was part of our offense, and that's what worked for us.
Brooks Boyer, thank God he didn't get a hold of that one. It would have been 1-0 all over the place. It would have
the billboards on the Dan Ryan.
Oh, for
bobbleheads.
sure. Now they would have named him that when they signed him, before his first run scored. They would have just named him that.
1-0. It was so great. It was so great.
Pods, I want to talk about like turning 3-6-3 double plays, hitting behind the runner. You alluded that even though the 05 team was great slugging, they did the little technical parts of baseball. Do you think, even though we're in the infancy of Rafal's tenure, do you think we're headed in the right direction, getting back to those traditional baseball, cues and things?
I think it's going to eventually swing back around. The game got so home run heavy. That's what was incentivized. So that's what players started searching. If you could hit 20, 25 homers, you can make yourself a good paycheck. The launch angle became a thing. Everybody started trying to elevate the baseball. And I think we kind of got away from just what you mentioned, from situational hitting, from hitting behind runners. When's the last time you've seen a hit and run? You don't see many bunts. I've seen a few more bunts this year than I did a couple of years ago, but I think the fans enjoy that style of baseball, going first to third. Fans want to see athleticism on the baseball field. And, when we talk about that 05 team, that's one of the things I remember. Konerko was our horse, Jermaine Dye. If there was a guy on second base, nobody out, they're trying to drive the ball the other way. At the very least, they wanted to get that guy over. There was no ego. There was no selfishness. They were willing to do what was going to be best for that ball club that day. That was kind of our thing. We good starting pitching, and we could pop one out of the ballpark, but we were versatile. We could also manufacture one here or there. Yeah. And I know the big talk now, I had this conversation with Chris Getz a while back, about giving up outs and, about sacrifice bunting and things of that sort. The thing now is not giving up outs, but I still think that there's a way and a plan. So TA, for example, guy on second base, nobody out. One of TA's strengths is driving the ball. When he's well, is driving the ball the other way. So if I'm TA, guy on second, nobody out, my sights are set the other way. I'm trying to drive the ball to the right side of the field. At the very least, if I hit a ground ball to the second baseman, at the very least, I get that guy over, make a productive out. All we need is a sac fly. I think the White Sox right now are last in productive outs. They used to be towards the bottom in runners on third base, less than 2 outs. They're starting to move up slowly. They might be around 25th or so, but that's one of the things I'd like to see the Sox improve on is their situational hitting behind runners. Hell, throw in a hit and run every now and then. Just get some things moving, get some life, and get some energy moving a little bit.
So we got a question here from Juan Diego. He's one of our most loyal listeners, watchers, followers. So he's got a question, and it's along these same lines. Do you see a lack of work or effort from the players? Bad fundamentals, hitting approach. You mentioned the productive outs, the strike zone. I don't know if we said that off camera before the show started, or if this was during the interview. But chasing pitches out of the zone or non-competitive pitches that the team is still doing. 3 different coaching staffs, still a 500 ball club, and they're even well under 500 right now. So what do you see big picture? Is it a lack of effort, or is it maybe that this team is just not as talented as advertised?
Yeah, that's a real good question, Slav. There are times we do see a lack of effort, and I compare it to other ball clubs. When the Guardians come into town, they play hard, they run the bases, they're going to give you a hard 90. There are times when, there are some guys on the Sox that aren't busting it down the line. And there are some guys that do. And I remember the Angels back in the day when they came into town. One of the first things we talked about is they're going to run the bases hard. And what that does is put puts pressure on the defense. As an outfielder, you have to charge the ball. You have to come and get it. You can't get lazy. And at sometimes, you know, if I know some of these scouting reports say, hey, they don't give you hard terms. The Sox don't. They're happy with the base hit, and they're not rounding hard. So look, yes, there's times that there is a lack of effort. There is, compared to the way some of the other clubs run the bases. There's, at the end of the day, you know, you get 27 guys on a roster. There's some guys, Slav, that like to win. We all like to win, right? Everybody likes to win. But there's some guys that need to win. They have to have it. And they're willing to do anything to win. They've got this competitive fire burning deep inside of them. And I wish the White Sox had a few more guys that just absolutely needed to win, because at times we do see a little lack of urgency with this ball club.
So, Pods, we got a question from my guy Vision. What was going through your mind Game 2 of the walk-off in the World Series?
So before going up to the at-bat, or after I saw it leave the park?
Give us the whole spiel.
All the above. Give us the most detailed recollection that you have.
Okay, so I didn't know this until during COVID. They replayed that Game 2. So before Konerko, I think it was the 7th inning, he hit that grand slam. I believe it was the 6th or 7th. He was 0 for 4 or 0 for 3. He was hitless, and I was hitless. We were the only two Sox players that were hitless. So Konerko hits his grand slam, and now I'm the only remaining White Sox without a hit. So we get to the bottom of the 9th. Uribe flies out. I remember walking to the plate thinking, okay, look, just find a way to first base. Brad Lidge was on the mound. He was very slow to the plate. He was like a 1-4-5 to the plate. So my plan was to try to reach base any way I could, and then I was going first pitch. I was running first pitch. Everybody was going to know I was running, but that's what I do. I'm going, throw me out. That was my thought. So I get ball 1, ball 2. So I'm up in the count 2-0. I step out of the box. I look over at Ozzie because I wanted to hack 2-0. I look over at Ozzie and he's like, no, you think about it. You take a pitch. So I took a fastball right down Broadway. And I step out and I said to myself, he was fastball slider. I said, there's no way he's going to throw you that slider 2-1. He does not want to walk you. He's going to come with a fastball. You look for that exact same fastball you just saw. And it was middle. And I wasn't thinking home run. I was just trying to put an aggressive cut on a 2-1 fastball. And I barreled it. And it was cold, 45 degrees and cold. I got pretty much all of it. So I was curious, but I was thinking 3. Right before I started to round first base, I saw Tim Raines throw his hand up in the air, and I looked out to right center, saw it leave the ballpark. And fellas, I can't put into words and describe the feeling and what it was like from there. I let out this primal scream from, as deep as it came, and I'm probably going to start choking up. I mean, I think about my dad. When I see that clip, I think about the 9-year grind it took to get to the big leagues, all the operations and the surgeries and the tireless work I put in. It was all worth it. It was all worth it. So, I can't even feel anything running. I'm thinking about what happened? What just happened? So I round third, and then, you get bombarded by your teammates, and it was just mayhem from there, and a feeling that I have never felt up to that point in competition, and knew that I was never going to experience anything like that ever again.
I got goosebumps listening to that.
Dude, I'm going to be honest. I was obviously in the dugout, and even when they won in Houston, like, obviously the team was up and you knew that you walked off, but there were certain moments in that series where your heartbeat level of everyone just being like on like cloud nine, like you feel like everyone was just floating. And that was one of them. Like when people ask me like, oh, how was it? Like, I don't remember Pods running the bases. Like I remember him like just hitting and like coming in, but you have to like, you just can't feel it. Like, it's just the energy that was there, because as soon as he hit it, the other thing is as soon as he hit it, the bench knew it. Like, I think he knew it, and a couple of the guys on the bench knew it. I remember Rowan and BA were like right by me, and they knew it as soon as he hit it. So I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, because it's just like one of those perfect, and even because it was probably one of the only walk-offs that the team had, obviously, going in, and it was just magical. And again, even if you win another World Series or you go to that, those moments are not relived again, because it's just that amazing.
No, and I'll be completely honest with you. It it kind of messed with me after that year. I mean, because I knew I was never going to hit a bigger one ever. I mean, that was it. That's the biggest hit I could ever. I started thinking. I said, well, at the time, let's see, the Cubs, they won it in
16.
16, so they had yet to win one. So it was Boston won it the year prior. Mm-hmm. So it was us, the Cubs, and Boston, the three longest going franchises. So Boston won theirs in 04. We won ours. So I was thinking, the only way I could top that Game 2 walk-off was if I'm playing for the Cubs.
Never.
And I hit one in Game 7.
Jeez.
That's so like
what a low bar.
that's as big as it gets, and it kind of messed with me for a while. It really did. I was kind of I'm not going to use the word depressed, but I was kind of like that's you're never going to do anything any bigger.
So I'm going to ask you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. You go, because you're going to stay on this topic. Because my next question is going to be completely not on this.
Well, after that, going into Houston, I felt like there was no way we were losing that series. No chance. We go into Houston. We have the off day the next day, and I'm still on cloud nine. I'm still thinking like, what happened? But there was I don't know if everybody else felt it, but I felt that there was no way we were losing that series after how Game 2 ended.
Did you ever get any shit from anyone because of the little fist bump between first and second, which was like very Kirk Gibson-esque? Has anyone ever mentioned that to you?
No, but every time I mean, the hair on the back of my neck has been standing up throughout all of this, but every time I see that clip, and my kids watch it occasionally or every now and then, man, it never gets old. I know I say this all the time.
It doesn't. Trust me, I watch it sometimes lonely at night, and I say the good, like, because again, I think that, and it was such. This is the other part where I think that the description of the definition of that team, okay, of next guy stepping up and you going in with the mindset of I'm getting on base, okay, like you're not going up to the bat saying I'm going to go deep. You're like, I'm getting on base. Bradley just slow to the plate. I'm getting on base. Like, I'm sticking to my. And then you being able to do that, and then the celebration that you have is compared to nowadays is so professional. You would have hit that now unless you took your shirt off rounding second, you would have not made the highlights on ESPN. So it was like a perfect combination of like that moment of saying like the description of like that team of what they represented, the guys, everyone on that team, and like everyone coming together. Because here's the part: people think that every guy on that team was like best friends. I think they all respected each other, and they all like protected each other on the field, and everyone knew what someone could do. And I think Pods might be right. When Pods went deep on that, the confidence of going into Houston was like a complete different change. I don't think any time in that series they felt like, okay, we're going to win this. After that home run, it was like, okay, we're not coming back to Chicago. Like I remember telling my friend, he was like, oh, I got tickets for, I was like, it's not coming back. Like, they're not coming back home. That's it. Like, there's no more playing at the Cell at the moment. But again, I think that when they did, I think one of the best things that they did, and I don't know if Kenny looked into Pods, but when you looked at the makeup of the guy that was coming over, of 9 years in the minor leagues, of hardworking, of everything that he had done to get to that point, they knew what they were getting. And one thing to Pod's credit, everything they ever asked him to do, he did. When he came, bunt practicing. Let's get better at that. Let's get better at stealing. Like, he constantly put that work in. So I think that the makeup of, obviously he had great numbers, but the makeup of the player was a great fit because that coaching staff worked on guys a lot, which I don't think many fans know that, how much hard work the players had to put in with Joey and Greg Walker. Probably the guy who put the less work in with the guys was Ozzy, because he was more of the guy that was just kind of like the father figure, everything. But the work, these guys put in a lot of work. Mike Gellinger, I think, doesn't get enough credit for that staff. Like, a lot of work in that cage with those guys, and just constant grind. And if you don't have the right makeup, you don't have the right players. I never saw Pod say, "Oh, I'm not hitting today. F that. Like, I'm tired." In all the years that he's the 5 years he was with the White Sox.
No, I agree with you, and you have to have character guys. Like I mentioned earlier, there were no egos. Everybody was willing to come to the ballpark, work their tail off, and do what we had to do that night. We weren't the most talented club that year. We weren't, but the team had baseball sense. They had a good baseball acumen. They knew their own skill set. We knew what we were trying to do. I had a role. I stayed within it, and I did my thing. Iguchi did his thing. Konerko did what he does, and nobody tried to be somebody they weren't. And I remember a consistent lineup day in and day out. Your dad would put the lineup up the night before, so you knew if you were playing the day prior. So I just remember a very solid lineup day in and day out. There were, a few guys here or there, but now I'm seeing so many different lineups and guys moving places. But I mean, we had a specific lineup every single night, so guys knew exactly what was expected of them. They knew their role. Iguchi knew my game. I knew Iguchi's game. I understood when Konerko wanted me to run, when he didn't want me to run. Same with Jermaine. There were times if Konerko's 2-1, 1 out, I wanted to run, but if I'm reading this pitcher, if he's thinking about me, there's a good chance Konerko's going to get a fat fastball right here. So, so that was kind of our game. Like, we had a plan of attack, and we stuck with it.
Pods, I want to stay back with this offseason. We saw a lot of your former players being rumored into, the managerial, possibilities of opportunities to get an interview. And I was curious, was there anybody you played with that you feel would make a difference as a manager if they got the opportunity?
To be completely honest with you, no. I let me try.
Carl Everett.
That's it. There you go.
Well, no, because I'm being completely honest, guys. He is 100% right. We just saw Willie Harris at the golf outing. I don't think it crossed anyone's mind when he was playing that Willie Harris even liked baseball as much as he did to coach later, or Alex Cintron. That's actually my next question that I was going to ask Pods, because obviously Pods and Ozzie Sr. worked together, and I didn't know that Pods wanted to do baseball and be in broadcasting until he actually got into it. And he's really good. He's actually one of my favorite guys on TV, on NBC, and in sports in general, because of the way that he covers. But he's been able to see his knowledge of the game. And even when he was playing, he's very knowledgeable. He's not a guy that tells you, like, this is what you have to do. But when he drops the tidbits, they're like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. Have you ever thought about coaching? In, like, if they brought you in and said, hey, do we want you to coach? Were you willing to put the uniform back on? Because it's not an easy thing. Obviously, you got little kids, the road life, you're back like you were being a player. Did you think about coaching before you got into broadcasting? Would you get out?
I did. Okay, first on the broadcasting thing, it's crazy that I'm doing pre and post shows for NBC. I was the most introverted, shyest kid of all time. And even up until about 15 years ago, I was or through the minor leagues, I was a very shy, kind of reserved guy. And part of kind of coming out was I was a leadoff hitter. So I was there to provide energy and swag and play the game with swag. It was one of Greg Walker and our thing, like, swag, like, let's go, like, let your nuts hang out there, let's go. So I kind of came out of this shell to go be that guy that was going to provide energy. But I never thought about doing television. Kevin Cross called on the Cubs Sox series, 8 years ago and said, "Hey, you want to come do Cubs Sox series?" I said, "Sure." So I came in and did 3 games, and I didn't know how it went, but he called the next offseason and said, "Hey, we'll give you some games," and it kind of just happened from there. But it's funny. I still think it's funny that I'm doing TV, but I enjoy the heck out of it. I enjoy working with Chuck. Ozzy is a blast. It keeps me connected to the game. It keeps me connected.
Great
to
producers.
Chicago. I'm sorry.
Great producers.
No,
obviously.
but Slav, I'm gonna be honest with you, and because you're a professional in this, and I think people at NBC, and obviously we've been a part of like kind of trying to bring in talent and whatnot. But like when you see someone on TV, you know if they have it or not, and it's like the weirdest thing ever. And when I saw you and like you're there, you're doing it, I'm like, okay, like Pods gets it, like Pods. Like we can work with like Pod's awesome. Like he can get this. And you don't know until somebody's there, because I've had guys that I was like, this guy's going to be amazing. This guy's going to be the best guy on TV. And then they turn the camera on and they're like, they're not as great as you think they are. So, and it's not easy, man. Like when you're there and you have to talk baseball and you have the camera on, props to you, because everyone thinks it's so easy because you play baseball and you're there and talking. It's a whole different world. The TVs and like, this is like legit production. It's not easy work.
It's not, but I appreciate what you said. But I approach it like I played, and Slav can attest to this. I show up and I try to prepare as much as I possibly can. I don't have a good memory like Chuck and your dad and all these other guys. I have to prepare and I have to just read stats constantly. But again, I'm really grateful for the opportunity. I enjoy it. I've had fun with it, and hopefully I won't screw it up too bad. So I can hang around for a few more years.
There's very few guys who are just like pure naturals. They get in front of a camera the first time and then they go, and they're just great. Even Ozzy Sr. was not at the beginning, like Baseball Tonight and doing that. He did a little color and was able to kind of sprinkle it in before he became who he is now. And Pods, to your point, I think in all my years producing in all the sports, all the different analysts, former players that I've worked with, I truly do think you prepare as hard or as much as any that I can think of, like coming up with topic ideas, or you might notice something and ask, "Hey, can we look this up? Like, is there a stat that can like back up what I think I'm seeing?" So credit to you. I mean, you work your ass off and you're really good at it. And the three of you guys, when you guys are all together, it's just such a great show to watch.
Well, thank you, Slav. I appreciate that. I have fun with it, and that approach comes from my dad. My dad worked his tail off growing up, and that's it's the way I approached my baseball career. I didn't want to take anything for granted, and I didn't want to leave anything to chance. And yes, I drive myself crazy preparing, but I try to instill that in my kids to try to go in as prepared as possible, and just to be grateful for the opportunity and don't take anything for granted.
Pods, this is the last bullet for me. I just want to say thank you. It's been a dream come true, actually, talking to a World Series legend. Never thought in a million years I would be able to have this conversation with you. So I just want to thank you for joining us. Jake Berger hit another home run tonight off of Clayton Kershaw. Mm-hmm. And a lot of Sox fans want Jake Berger batting in the upper third of my order every day. Do you think that he's built for that type of responsibility, or he's better off being stashed lower in the order?
Yeah, it's tough to answer that question now. We don't have a big enough body of work from him just yet. If you start throwing him in a position, how is that going to wear on his body? When you start getting fatigued towards the end of the season. The biggest thing about competing in the big leagues day in and day out is dealing with the adversity. Once you go into a slump, learning how to pull yourself out of that slump. And it's tough to find out who guys really are, in a month. Yeah. In September and August, when your body starts getting tired and you're worn down mentally and physically, will he be able to come to the park, prepare, and then be that same guy that can produce day in and day out? We don't know yet, so it's tough to answer that question. So far, he's been unbelievable in this, in this early part of the season. And quite frankly, he's almost carried this offense there for a stretch when they were kind of cold. If I was Jake Berger, I would be working tirelessly this offseason on my footwork, on my speed on my lateral speed agility. We need to find him a position, whether that's second base, third base. I would start talking to strength and fitness guys, and I would seek out an infield guru. I would be working to try to improve my defensive skills, because so far his bat plays. We just need to find a position for him.
Paz, last question for you. Thank you again for all your time. Appreciate you jumping on with us. We've talked ad nauseum the last few seasons with this White Sox team about leadership in the clubhouse specifically, and from the players, because when you ask Ozzie Sr., the leader of the team should be the manager, because that's his personality. That's who he was. Take us back to your time as a player, and then now what you see. I know we're not in the White Sox clubhouse, but we've talked so much about this apparent lack of leadership from inside the clubhouse from a player with this team the last few years. Who were some of those guys, or teams that stood out that had great leadership, or specific players that you played with that kind of exhibited that leadership? I guess just in a broad sense, how important is it to have that type of guy or that type of clubhouse culture of leaders to be a successful team?
I think any championship club has to have those guys present. To win a championship in any sport, I believe you have to have accountability. There has to be a bar set. There has to be a standard set. This is the way we are going to go about it. And anything below that bar is unacceptable. And look, there's 162 games. It's a long season. Guys get tired. Sometimes we don't, you catch a guy taking a play off here or there, taking a pitch off. You have to have guys that are going to remind that person, hey, that's not how we do things here. We are going to give our all day in and day out, and this is the way we're going to do this. This is unacceptable. I think you have to have those guys. When you walk through that clubhouse, you got to have guys willing to do things daily it takes to win. And that was what stuck out to me about that ball club in 2005, which was different than, the two previous seasons when I was with the Brewers, is there was an accountability there. Everybody knew their role, and I felt like we had a group of men that showed up and prepared and went about it the right way. That's and I think I do agree with you. There seems to be a lack of leadership going on within that clubhouse. There's some things that have happened that shouldn't be happening at the big league level with this ball club.
Is it fixable?
I do think it's fixable. It's a culture thing. It's an attitude. It's a mindset. It's the way the organization is going to do things, and I think that has to even start in the minor leagues. But there has to be a tone set. There has to be an expectation, and anything below that is unacceptable. And everybody has to buy in. Now, the art of the manager relaying that to players and holding players accountable without losing the clubhouse, that's an art. And some guys are good at it, some guys aren't. You have to understand personalities. You have to understand how to motivate guys. You have to know what might work for this guy won't necessarily work for this guy. I'm intrigued by that human behavior piece of it, because when I played, Ozzie Sr. and I talk about this all the time. Back when we played, guys didn't wear their hat backwards, or guys during batting practice didn't have cut off sleeves or not wearing socks. We wore our hats the right way. We wore our uniforms the right way. And it was because of it boiled down to discipline. If you're disciplined in these small little areas here or there, then we felt like that's going to carry over to the game. Whereas I believe the opposite is true. If you lack discipline here, how do you expect to just show up onto the field and be disciplined? I just don't believe it happens that way. But there's going to be, I had this conversation with other former players, telling a club to turn their hats around the right way. Some guys aren't going to like it, and you're going to lose them. But there's a way to do it, and that art of getting those guys, to buy into what we're doing here. Because some Sox players wear their hats backwards on the field prior, and your dad and I just hate it. Your dad and I, we talk about it all the time. It's a discipline thing. I know the game's changing. I know times are changing, but I think it's just little details like that you stay sharp in. You kind of just hone yourself night in and night out with these little acts of discipline, and I think those carry over to the bigger picture.
Scotty Pods, you are the man. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you joining us. You're grateful to have you on. When are you back in town for some more pre and post games?
July 4th.
Oh, so, the holiday weekend. Scotty Pods back in Chicago.
So listen, Paul, enjoyed talking ball, man. Thank you so much for having me on. Let's do it again, but maybe a little earlier next time.
We'll do a special.
We'll let you go get your beauty sleep and let you break 80 again tomorrow.
Hey, appreciate it, fellas. Y'all have a good night. Enjoyed it.
Thank you, my bud.
Thanks Scotty Pods.
Thanks.
That was awesome. And we got the real Scotty Pods, and he loves Slav, and he is probably one of the most.
It's mutual respect.
No, that's what I'm saying though. But I'm saying Pods is a player that he was never the loudest, never the most quiet. He just went about his business the right way. And when he was talking about the hat, I think the hat's a symbolism. Okay, when people say we don't like players wearing their hat backwards, or we don't like players doing this, that's just a symbolism of whatever they're talking about the word that he used, discipline. Okay, because you could walk into a lobby of a hotel and see that a player had been partying his balls off, but you would not tell that player, go to bed, go do this, just because you expected that player to be in the stadium working out his ass off, regardless of what was going on. You expected him to show up. You expected the funniest story we have is with the AJ Brzezinski fight, okay, where AJ's famous for the fight, but he didn't really even throw a punch. The guy that gets into it is Pods, who wasn't even a part of it, and he was the one that kind of went, and that was a side of Pods that the team had never kind of seen of him, but that's who he is, because he is that guy of expectations of showing up every day and working very hard, and putting in the work and working in the outfield and being out there with Joey and Grit Walker and Ozzy and working on Bunny and how can I get better. I think that level of that's why he was in the big leagues for so long. That's why he's had success. That's why he's on TV. But that discipline, and I think that this team, we can learn something from that you can have fun and do all that fun stuff as long as you have discipline. And those are the little things we're not hating on the bat flips, and we're not hating on doing all, but those little things cannot carry over to not running the bases. Right now, we're watching the game. They're down right now 4-2. They just threw a ball from the outfield after a Clevenger injury. They threw a ball from the outfield that passed 5 players, and the pitcher wasn't even covering the back. The ball just literally trickled. The shortstop just made up. Those little things in the game to be a winning team, discipline is huge in the game of baseball. And I think in any sport, the discipline of you can have fun, but as long as you're disciplined and having those habits, you're going to be a better. And he's a great player that represents that. A guy that had fun, a guy that had charisma, a guy that fans loved to watch him play. He was exciting, but he had that discipline every day, day in and day out. So I'm glad that we got him on, because he is a representation of that team, of what Ozzy wanted to build, of what's right with the White Sox. And he's probably one of my favorite people that Ozzy ever got to be managing. We have a great friendship even now afterwards, because he's just a real dude.
He's an awesome guy. Go ahead, Gonzo.
Yes.
That near the end there, for me, it was really more so.
Berger just tied it with another 2-run homer. His kid's unreal. Sorry, go ahead.
It was more so.
Did he do it?
He just
Yeah.
hit his second home run, tied the game.
I'm,
After
I'm,
about-
delayed. I'm delayed. I'm delayed. But by the way, that's the discipline, guys. Again,
Yeah,
Burgers probably has the best discipline on the team.
for me, it was just at the end there with the talk being more focused for me. What I learned out of it was really more so professionalism, which is a lost art
Your
of the
hat is
game.
backwards right now.
But I ain't out there playing the game, man.
Come on,
Totally
dog.
different. My day job, I have to have that professionalism and be sharp on it.
Oh, so you could just be a slob on our show? Jesus.
But yeah, I mean, just a lost art of what, was America's greatest game. And now it's just solely based on the entertainment side of it that we're just losing that art of the game. And it just, that pure focus of entertainment is just taking over every aspect of the game, it seems.
Pods is one of my favorite people to talk to, period, let alone like talk baseball with. I love the way he thinks about the game, but I love the way he thinks about life. He's a very cerebral dude, like very reflective. Like he's constantly like thinking his actions and how they reflect, people's perception of him and what it means like for him as, talking to him about being a father. Like just fucking awesome guy. So glad he was able to join us, and we'll definitely have him back on again. The one thing we didn't get a chance to ask him about was something that was on the radio recently, some comments that were made about Pedro Grifol and about the future of the White Sox, and we'll get into that coming up here now on Grifol's Grounds.
I don't have a problem making decisions. I don't have a problem making a call on a pitcher. I don't have a problem making a call on whatever our team needs at this particular moment.
So Bob Nightengale was on 670 The Score this week, doing an interview talking both Cubs and White Sox, and he was asked about Pedro Grifol and in general this White Sox, and he made some very interesting comments. Basically, kind of, I don't want to say he threw Grifol under the bus, but in a way, it was the way he framed it was, Tony La Russa. He kind of joked he deserves a plaque for winning with this team, which. It is kind of a good point. However, he kind of threw Grifol under the bus, basically saying like he hasn't done squat. The Sox need to blow it up, blah, blah, blah. He wasn't necessarily wrong. I think it was just kind of jarring to hear a national baseball guy kind of diss Grifol. What were your guys' thoughts about what Nightengale had to say?
I'm going to go first because number one,
you love Pedro.
No. I'm not saying no, because I was one of the first people that said that you cannot blame Pedro for this team not playing well this year.
I think everybody agrees with that.
I think that what Bob Nightengale is going after, okay, he was going after the front office, he was going after the media. Nightengale has a lot of friends in baseball, okay. Nightengale has a lot of friends inside of the Chicago White Sox, so we don't know who gave him that tidbit to go out there and say what he said, sending out the message. We know that Grifol was the general manager's guy. Maybe not necessarily the chairman's guy. Marketing, the media, the fans, Grifol himself. Okay, Grifol himself. He did not take the job and just went and be a manager without making comments. He had a press conference where not only him, but him and the general manager went on a marketing campaign, okay, supported by the media throughout all of spring training. So you have 3 months of the team going every single day. This team is amazing. It's so different now. Grifol's walking on water. Players are doing this every single day. So now you look back and you're like, wait, this guy has done nothing. And meaning nothing, not positive, not negative. Like he has zero impact on this team. I think now everyone just is looking back, guys like Bob Nightengale, and saying, where are the receipts? Okay, you made you made a list of like fundamentals. We're gonna do this. Like you literally gave people all the jokes that you're gonna make, like the long list. It's embarrassing because he literally went out there and his press conference sounded like what Bruce Bochy's press conference would be. Like Bruce Bochy came from kicking people's asses in his previous teams. So that's why I think people want to take his names. I don't think that Pedro Grifol is the wrong manager, and here's why. The Chicago White Sox are going to fool everybody that might not know about baseball, but they might have known that this team was not as good as they made it out to be. And I don't think that a lot of guys like Ozzie Guillen, Buck Showalters, Ron Washington, Bruce Bochy, guys that have a hardware in their house, would have sat there through a rebuild and lied about players being good. Okay? So it was like, let's bring Grifol in. If we do well, great. But if it's not good, we have our manager for the next 3 years, and we'll have the wave. Why? Because number one, Pedro Grifol is not a bad baseball guy at all. I think that he actually brings the energy, and he actually is putting the work in. And he is having the same growing pains that every manager has their first year. The difference is that this first-year manager, we were expecting him to be in the playoffs. If it's like if Ozzie Guillen would have had those expectations in 2004, everyone would have been like, "Oh, Ozzie melted in August, and the team didn't do good." And look at Ozzie making all these. No, Ozzie didn't say anything. It was like a 1 year, like, "Hey, don't go. It's not a big deal." But once, no one thought Ricky sucked until the team was supposed to win. Same manager.
Facts.
No, same manager. Never lost the clubhouse. He was making moves, and you're like, "Wait, what the like?" And again, managers make bad moves. Terry Francona 2 days ago hit Arias versus a lefty when he's hitting like 110 versus them. Like, managers fuck up. Like, it just happens. Like, it's baseball. But I think that the Nightengale was just making a statement on, we're tired of you guys overselling. And even Pedro's kind of taken back and been like, ooh, like maybe I shouldn't go out there and like sell myself so hard. Because I really think that for his sake, they really should trade players at this point. Because if he is going to rebuild and guys like Jay Berger are going to, grow up under Grifol, I hope that Jay Berger gets Pedro for 3 years and not another manager, even if it's Ozzie, even if it's whoever it is, me, Slav, you. These players have already on like their fourth manager. They have more managers and years in the big leagues. It's not going to work. So I completely agree with what he said about he has done nothing, but I don't think it's been bad. Like, he has done something negative. Like, I don't think if there was another manager, maybe the team might have been playing better, but who knows? Because at this point, they're just underperforming.
Yeah.
Once again.
And then think about this, OJ. Like, this is the same exact roster that you had last year. How many players do we have that can move the needle?
My mom knew this from day one. Every single thing Ibis Guillen said that was going to go wrong and why the job would have been bad for Ozzie other than the money is exactly happening to Pedro. Like, literally everything that she wrote down on the negative list is happening to him because exactly what you said right now. The roster's the same. Okay, you have the financial constraints and nothing's changed. But it goes back to everybody in the media and the fans thought that the problem is Tony. He's just old and boring. And Rick goes back to, if I would have picked the right guy, this team would have been better. And it's starting to realize, I have a question. What happened if TA is not a superstar? What happened if he's just a good player? Like, he's not a superstar. He's just a normal, again,
don't let King Mac hear that.
Hold on. There's levels to this stuff, man. There's levels to my father played for 14 years. He was a good player, not a superstar.
I don't think TA ever was a superstar, to be perfectly honest.
But I'm saying that, but we thought that he was. He went to Team USA.
We thought he could be.
He could.
I don't.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, I personally never labeled him a superstar. I think he was a potential face of the White Sox, one of the potential faces of baseball. But since he won the batting title, his numbers have declined slowly. He was very good for a couple years, but he's been hurt a lot the last couple years too. I mean, since the big home run in Iowa, which, was kind of like, that's going to be the crown moment of his career.
Will that be his Scott Podsednik home run World Series moment?
More than likely. I mean, if he stays with the White Sox, yes. If he leaves, then there's potential that he can have a bigger moment in his career.
He's going to be great in any other team that he goes, just like he was for Team USA. Because one, they might move him to another position like second, and better for him, he's not leading off. Okay, he's hitting probably seventh or eighth, and just getting like little shots like of meatballs, and he probably can hit 25 home runs. That's why I think he'll improve at any other team that he goes. Again, the situation that he has and the way that he is, that's something that has to be dealt with. I think that his value's there. I blame everything on the injuries. I think that his legs, the problems that he's had on his legs. I saw a graphic that somebody posted on Twitter of all the injuries to his legs. that he's had, when you lose your legs, man, especially a player like him, that's tough. So, but I think that he's a guy that in Chicago, I don't think that we didn't think that he was a superstar, but I think just like Moncada, like all these players that fans think that they were going to be like Frank Thomas, and they're not. Like Jay Berger, if Jay Berger's like a Joe Creedy type of level player, I think they would be happy with that, because being a superstar and being like a Manny Machado, like a Bryce Harper, like guys that are like in that top echelon, it's not easy. Like you get those guys maybe once in a blue moon, and that's what's scary, because every single time, like where is Oscar Colas, for example? Like everyone said he was going to be amazing, this top prospect. Like no one even talks about him now. Baseball's hard, man, and I think that's what Grifal's learning real quick, and what Nightengale's bringing up of like this team's issues are a lot deeper, okay, than what people thought they were with Tony La Russa, and they blamed the old man, and it was an easy scapegoat. And Grifal, he's not bad, he's not good. He's just kind of been like whatever, because this roster is not very good.
And that they put him in this position to fail, basically, because by doing nothing to your roster and simply changing managers, and we've talked about this before, you're basically telling your fan base it was the previous manager that caused this roster to fail. And now when you bring in, look, him and his 267 average and 335 OBP, great, and 0 home runs. Benintendi's not even close to the problem with this team. He's not even close to the problem with this team. When you basically say we're going to keep the same roster and the manager is going to get more out of the guys, you are setting that manager up for failure, because if the team is who they are, which I think at this point we have enough of a sample size to know the White Sox as currently constructed are not contenders. They are not. When you now have a manager, a second manager, a third manager with mostly the same roster, and they're not succeeding, it's because of the roster, not because of the manager. That's what Rick Hahn has put this franchise into, and the perception of the manager is going to get more out of the same team. Clearly, it's not worked.
Well, it's fun, and it's ironic, because it's like you always learn from like your mistakes in the past, or like what worked. When Ozzie was brought in, okay, prior to a World Series, prior for him being like, who he is now, Ozzie was a coach that had success with the team, but no managerial experience. You kind of just knew that this guy had played, and they were like, dude, this guy's young, he's vibrant. In the time, he was considered analytical, because the things that the Marlins were doing were kind of ahead of everyone. Shocker again, the White Sox were behind what everybody else was doing back then. And they bring this guy that's like vibrant, like he's Hispanic. He's going to bond with like Maglio and Carlos Lee, and like, there's a bunch of Latinos.
How did that work out?
Like, no, I'm saying though, like literally, like you put things side to side, and it's like literally the same storyline. Like he's a Latino young guy that's like bilingual, and he's going to come in and be like, other than the fact that Grifol did not play for the White Sox, very similar kind of like hiring process, a couple different things. And Ozzie does exactly the same thing that Jerry Manuel does. The only difference is that Ozzie is now telling Jerry and everybody, these guys are wrong. Like, I'm not staying here with these guys. Like, if you guys want me to keep managing here, you got to get rid of this guy. And they listen to him. But they made the same mistake of saying like, okay, well, the roster's the same. Let's just bring in this guy. He's going to manage them to success. And he basically said, hey, we need to change the culture, because these guys are great players, yet they're not great. They don't play well together. And we need this, we need that. And they listened to him. So with Pedro, he got to bring in. So hopefully this offseason, or even now, Pedro's kind of letting them know what this team needs, because he does have the knowledge as a baseball man. And I think that he gets blamed for the Benintendi signing because they happen to be together in Kansas City, but we don't know that. Maybe it was Rick and Kenny that really wanted him, and he was like, oh yeah, he's not going to say anything bad about the guy. It's not his money. Right. He's like, yeah, give him 75 mils. Oh, is Slav worth 75 mil? Yeah, of course. He's my guy. He's my friend. Why wouldn't I say, please? No, don't give Slav 75 mil because he's going to, no, you don't do that. So I think that he needs to be involved in those conversations. I think that whoever comes in as a next general manager, and the part we're going back to the Bob Nightengale comment, I think now for the first time ever, I think that Rick Hahn's job is in jeopardy. Okay? Because this hire, I don't know this for a fact. I really don't know this. The only thing I know is that Kenny Williams was not in Ozzie Guillen's interview. Okay? But I do know that Kenny was the one that said, the old man wants to talk, wants us to interview you. He kind of was in there and he was part of the process, but he never interviewed him. So I don't know if Kenny was, I want somebody with experience, and he was more on the Jerry side. And then Rick was like, I want this guy, and they let Rick have his way. And now they're saying, okay, you had your way. This is not working. It's on you. So I don't know if Kenny said, okay, I'm going to stay with Jerry, and now I can fire this guy, and I'm safe. I don't know what side he's falling on, but from the comments that Bob Nightengale made, I think for the first time ever in all of this, because I thought Rick would be clean, that nothing was going to happen to him. I think now that there could be some movement in that position if this gets a lot worse, and they'll let somebody else make the moves to like improve this team moving forward.
Yeah, for me with this whole Nightingale topic, I can't really blame either of the three managers, just because I know from the right there after Ricky, they jumped the gun a year too early. They didn't get any more out of their core past 1 year. They just finally set their minds on them, went with it, said they were ready, and they went to that next stop with Tony La Russa telling him, we are ready to go. We're competing, when it was just way too soon. And on that, I have slowly focused my game on Hahn, just because it seems like ever since that moment, he was so complacent with his core, and everyone else was zoned in with it, that look what happened ever since. He hasn't added to the needs. He hasn't, replaced it. When we did our own breakdown a month ago, and we had the same issue with the same set of needs for the past 3 years. Not only that, but I think one of the biggest things OJ said last episode was, where is your 3 to 5 year board? Like, I see no growth and development from your minor league system. You're not bumping guys up to get growth out of them and really bump them up to where they need to be those replacements, to be here for this contention window. Like, it's just a mess. And now the biggest question is, again, is TA. Are you going to extend him? Are you going to move him to second base? Are you going to trade him for value? What are you going to do? And the longer you're going to wait on it, obviously in this series, he's not doing well, which is a team that would probably desperately want him. You're going to lose your value on him. And again, you're going to fall flat on your face like you did with Pito and some of these guys you could have value with at the end of their contracts if you weren't set on them. Like, it's just disgusting at this point. And I agree. Hahn he should be on the hot seat. Like, why isn't there not more heat on him from the media? Like, it needs to be there.
That's fired up Gonzo, guys. I don't know if this translates on YouTube or on the podcast. If you're listening right now, that's Gonzo pissed off. That was good.
Gonzo, are you gonna be mad if they fire Cats with them too? They say you're out of here too. If they clean house, no, you'll be okay. Really? And then you're gonna be little baby Cats by yourself.
Gonzo's going to be the pitching coach after.
Gonzo, by the way. But hey, you know what though? Again, he's had success, and here's the part that's interesting though when you're talking about Tim Anderson, because we did the breakdown. We don't have anybody like that can sign. And I'll be honest, if the Dodgers think that Tim is going to fix their problems and move Miguel Rojas and his defense for Tim's offense is not way better. It's just scary to them to do that. But like looking at the future and saying, well, we don't have a second baseman right now. Pretty much, we don't. Can TA be the second baseman? And how close is Montgomery to coming up? But we don't know how close Montgomery is coming up because it's like a magic. Like, it's literally, we don't know. And then it gets scary when you get guys like Colas. And this is why I think Rick's in the hot seat. And not just Rick. I'm talking about Rick and everyone that's under Rick. Like, legitly. Like, you bring up Colas and it's like, what is this? Like, because we're getting sold on, again, I'm talking like just a regular fan. We don't know what's in the minor leagues. So, we had Fox there. We were arguing. He goes, well, Montgomery's a top 25 prospect. I'm like, a list is a list. Is he good or not? Like, because they have to make a list regardless. But is he a legit player that's going to come up to the big leagues at one point and like be good and like be able to help this team out? Because the guys that they have brought up, other than Crochet, because like when you see Crochet on the mound, you're like, okay, this guy's legit. This guy's in the big league, even if you're struggling. But like to just grab one of your top pieces, like I was saying in the beginning of the show, Grifol and Colas are going to grow together and be like this team, that's going to be his guy. We weren't even talking about Jake. Jake was like oh, get him in the flea market section over there on clearance. They didn't even let him break camp with the team. And he is now becoming like the guy that's like, man, maybe Berger should be playing first base or third base or the DHing. He just came out of nowhere. So that's the part where it's like, wait, did they even know that Berger was going to be this good? Or are they just getting lucky? Like, is it like, oh man, Berger's good. Okay, I guess we'll put him in the mix, because it looked like he was never in their plans. And that keeps on happening consistently. This guy Santos, I don't know where they got him, the guy that just pitched today. Like, they'll call guys up from the pen and you're like, wait, why is this guy? Why didn't they use this guy? Why did they give this guy $40 million? You should have used this guy for free. So I don't know like what their board looks like. And that's where I think Nightengale, and again, we're gonna make fun. We're gonna make fun, and it goes back to like, you think it's bad, but then you see what happened in Oakland, and people are like reverse boycotting, and they're going to the game, and they're throwing garbage on the field. Like we think it's bad. It could get worse. Like it could get like way worse.
And OJ, I want to add real quick, because when Liam Hendricks went to the IL, they brought back Tanner Banks, which is 3 lefties. So if a righty goes down, why don't you bring up a guy like Crowan down in Charlotte?
Try him out.
On fire. Bring him up. He's a righty. Bring him up. Why are you going to 3 left? We already saw what Tanner Banks has. Bring up Cronin. Obviously, I know we heard from last week from Dan that he's the analytics kid with his stuff, but the stuff is great. Like, give him a shot to prove himself while you still can. Like, it's so frustrating that
we gave those chances to Carson Fulmer. I think that.
But that was when they were bad. But I'm saying like this year right now, I think
bad
a huge opportunity. No, I'm saying though, again, they're not great. But I'm saying you're still in the race. Yeah, whatever. Like they're in the race, but like everyone's like, we know we're in the race, but we're not really in it. This is a great runway to come and bring these guys up and say, what do we have? Like these young players of like. Maybe there's a guy in the minor leagues that can be like, these guys are in Charlotte that can come up and be like, okay, if we're going to lose, might as well lose with these guys. We're testing out and seeing if they're going to be able to be developed into something more in the future. Why? I'm really concerned with the Liam Hendricks guys, because everyone keeps talking about the cancer, which what he did is freaking amazing. If he was a garbage man or was a homeless guy with no job, the fact that he beat cancer, that's just like in another level. To come back as fast as he did in a mental point, that's even crazier. But his body physically, no one has mentioned that. When you look at the time frame on how fast he came back, was it too fast? Like, is it too much strain on his arm? You know, did he want to come back too fast? Didn't they put? And you can't blame him for wanting to come fast. But like now, I'm concerned of like, man, did he come? Well, I'm just saying, like, did he come back too fast? You can't blame him because the guy wants to get back into the field. But could the team put a break on him and say, hey, you're going a little bit too fast? Is he hurt now where he's not going to be able to come back now?
The good news is there's no structural damage. So it sounds like, crisis averted for anything major. Now, how long the inflammation lasts or how long, before he can kind of resume throwing normally again. You're right, though. Long story short, they have a track record of rushing guys back a little too quickly. And you can probably make the case that Liam did not get enough of a rehab stint / ramp up / like whatever spring training, so to speak, before he was kind of thrust into a role. And then in his third appearance, he's now in the 9th inning going for a save against the Yankees. So, I feel you on that. I hope Liam's going to be fine. I'm hopeful. I think he's going to be okay long term. And in a way, it's as sad as it sounds. Like he might be your best trade chip at the deadline.
Absolutely, because people are waiting. When they saw him throwing, and they were like, "Whoa, this guy just came back." Everyone in baseball, because when you look at track record and guys that have done it, Liam Hendricks was Liam Hendricks before he came to the White Sox. Okay, he has multiple years of him being successful in doing it. So again, when people are like, "Well, Cat Crimble," guys like that have a name, people are there you go, ponytail gang. Like guys get to come in, like they give them the benefit of the doubt in the game of baseball. Guys that are like on the other side, like Moncada, guys that kind of had like 1 or 2 good years. Like teams for some reason or not, they're like, they won't give you more in return because they're like, well, this guy hasn't really proven himself. And again, the guy can go off and go somewhere else and just have an amazing career. But teams don't tend to go with guys that have not had that body of work when they rather go with somebody more of a veteran of a Hendricks, Joe Kelly, Graveman. Like those are the guys right now that teams are looking at and having a lot of value in moving them, unless there's somebody super young that the team's trying to rebuild. So they're going for like your top 3 prospects, which will be interesting. And I would love to see what Pedro Grifol, obviously, I hope that they're including him in the conversations, that he is going to be here for the next 3 years. Like he has to finish out his contract. He has to. They cannot fire another manager. People are like, oh, Ozzie Guillen. I'm like, dude, do not wish that upon my father or anybody if you care about the person to come manage this team, because your life is going to be – if you want to run Ozzie for 2026, 2027, run the campaign for that. But for right now, Pedro needs to finish the job, and they need to stop switching managers and let the guy just do his work and see what he has. And because, again, I think that they really need to really figure that out. And it goes back to, again, to the top bosses.
All right, as we tape this, Sox up 5-4 in the 8th inning. Keenan Middleton is your setup man right now. Bottom 8, runner on first, 2 down. It's the Jake Berger game so far again tonight. He's driven in 3 of the Sox 5 runs. All right, let's wrap this up, baby up, Southside Daily.
And this is Southside Daily. And
I already said that.
Slav is right. We have a lead here late in the game, and tomorrow we're going to wrap it up with the pitchers duel for the series, and it's going to be Dylan Cease versus Grove, and then the boys stay on the road and they go up to Seattle, and it's going to be on Friday Kopech versus Wu. Then Saturday likely to be Giolito versus Gilbert, which I have a very heavy focus on. Love that pitching matchup. And then Sunday's matchup is going to be Lance Lynn versus Bryce Miller. Bryce, again, as a pitcher, with my love for pitching, the rookie Miller on Sunday, I'm going to be really, really interested in that matchup. And obviously the Julio Rodriguez, we all know who he is. His line is 241, 12 homers, 37 ribbies. That's a good hitter to keep your eye on. Jay, you have anything to add with the trip in Seattle before we come back home?
Yeah. I mean, it's always obvious to circle Julio on the docket, but guys like Ty France, Caballero, even Eugenio Suarez, you can't let the role players beat you. Obviously, Seattle has a whole lineup of guys you can pitch to. There's nobody that you definitely got to execute. You can get these guys to expand the zone, but do not have Ty France jogging around your bases because he hit a 3-run shot. That's just bad practice. So I think this would be a good series for the Sox to get back to executing. Scout reports is going to be important as well. I think just jumping to Sunday, Bryce Miller is going to get absolutely fucking wrecked, and Lance Lynn will get back on the win by the White Sox.
Like the offense?
Yeah, we're going to score multiple runs against Bryce Miller. He will not
so that
leave.
Counts as 2.
He's not going to leave the game on the winner.
But by the way, so I hope that the White Sox go analytical. So the game that I'm excited about, and I want to know why I was excited about the Giolito one. It's probably like the most boring matchup of all time. It's like 2 boring pitchers going at it. But Lance Lynn, if you look at his line, and people are like crazy, if you took away the first inning against the Dodgers, he actually pitched really good. The over on the runs was like plus 11 runs. If you would have taken the under, like you would have won, but everyone probably jumped on the over because they thought he was going to get shelled. He literally shut it down, like legitly shut it down. So I want to see how he comes out in this start because, again, he's coming off facing a really good offense. His last 2 starts have been hard. I'm looking forward to him, but my only advice in Seattle is eat fresh sushi. Don't eat bad sushi. Never recommended. That's the only greatest place to eat sushi, in my opinion, but gotta be fresh. But I'm looking for my guy Lance Lynn, who disappointed me in his 2 starts again. But should they use the opener with him? This team's analytical. We got Pedro Grifol, horizontal vertical.
Come
what do you
on,
think, Gonzo? Pitching guy. I'm throwing out there. Just bring Crochet in. Again, this is an analytical team. We got, horizontal, vertical. This team wants to be analytical. The fans would be happy. Do you bring a guy in for the first inning, let Lance go the second two?
The issue is, it looks like Mike Clevenger is hurt pretty seriously. He left tonight's ball game. You don't have the ability to now potentially, use Lynn or use an opener for Lynn or like piggyback him. It's not a bad idea. The White Sox are never going to be at the forefront making decisions like that before other teams do, but it doesn't look good for Clevenger.
From what he looked like over there, I will be texting a friend of a friend because I think they did not look good. That's when you come off after that. Hopefully, it's just a freak situation and nothing's really bad, but it did not look good, obviously, on TV. So we wish for the best. By the way, this Middleton guy that just pitched, let's keep an eye on him. Him as a setup guy. Don't know much about him other than the fact that he wears cool jewelry and hates the Braves, hates the Astros with a passion.
He's been pitching his ass off.
But he has been. Look at those numbers. I'm looking at him. But again, since the bullpen is not as deep as it was with Liam's injury and all that, you cannot make him the opener for Lynn. I just think that if Lynn gets past that first inning, and again, we don't know if it is the actual first inning or if it's a fact that he needs to go around the lineup and kind of get going. Because, again, the Dodgers offense is really scary. He looked at times amazing when he was getting them out. Struck out Mookie's right away and then kind of got in trouble with 2 outs. So, again, that's a big – because I think he is a trade bait. I think he is a trade piece. Maybe not to a team that's like a contender like the Yankees, but there might be other teams like in the middle of the pack that would like an extra arm for St. Louis Cardinals, for example, that lack pitching to come in and get that support from a veteran like Lance Lynn.
Yeah, and then the boys come back home to face Texas on Monday, and what would have been Clevenger versus Haney probable. Well, we're going to see if they're going to maybe call up a guy like Burke from AAA because Tuesday's matchup is Cease versus
Noah Schultz. Let's get Noah Schultz started.
29 pitches in the bigs. That's on a limit.
Tuesday's going to be Cease versus Evaldi, so I don't think you really want to make it a bullpen game on Monday when you have Cease going the next day because Cease most likely is only going to get 5 or 6 in. So I don't think it's smart to go bullpen game. I think you have to try a guy, see what he can give you, and then go from there. But then, yeah.
Dunning, is he pitching in Chicago?
Hey, man, stop trolling, man.
I'm asking if Dunning's going to pitch in Chicago. It's just a question.
Could.
I'm saying is he
relief pitcher
starting?
Possible.
Is he starting right now? I don't know.
No, he's relief.
Oh, nah, he might just show up then for relief. I thought he was still starting for them.
He started off the year starting, then he went to relief.
Bruce Bochy was like, this guy's not helping me.
And then Garcia is their hitter with Seager, but Garcia's got 258, 15 homers, 54
Gonzo,
ribbies.
his last 5 games have all been starts.
Oh, really? Gonzo on the pitching getting.
They brought him back.
Yeah, he's made 7 starts. I think his last.
Am I gonna have to text?
What do we even do this segment for if you're not paying attention?
By the way, am I gonna have to text Ozzie Senior to text Bochy to give me the breakdown on Dunning?
Oh my God!
What do you need? What's the breakdown? We know who he is. We know what he's done. We know what he throws.
Do I need to tell you we want Dunning to start in Chicago?
That would be
a typical night, like Dunning versus Lynn in Chicago. Showdown. Dunning throws 9 complete game. Oh my God, that would be like the worst. That's like
I killed myself.
White Sox Twitter would totally implode.
That's what I mean. It
just
could be the
entirely.
craziest thing ever. By the way, so that Texas series worries me because that's a really sneaky good team, and I don't know how because obviously Bruce Busch is making moves, but their lineup looks exactly the same. Yet they're like playing way better than they were last year.
Well, Josh Jung, Jonah Heim, they've gotten some production. Adolis Garcia has been.
You're forgetting the guy. You're forgetting the guy.
No, I'm not. I'm not talking about.
Thank you.
We don't need to. We'll talk about that plenty. Yeah, it's fuck, man. All right, I'm gonna bring this. I'm just gonna say real quick. Everyone keeps trying to dunk on this my tweet about Marcus Semien and Corey Seager. Everyone keeps trying to dunk on it. They're the only 2 players on the fucking Rangers who are doing well. Let's ignore the other 9 guys that they developed who are borderline all-stars.
Well, guys, so here's the thing, Slav. I'm gonna protect Slav on this because I got into the same argument with somebody. The only reason that they can afford, and people think it's because the guy's a billionaire. All owners are really, really rich. But the only reason that they can go and grab roster spots for two main players, like literally superstars, is because they've developed their own players to be around them that are still in pre-arbitration that they didn't sign to long-term deals. So the White Sox can't do that because they're young core players. They extended them.
The perfect example is what they're doing with Ezekiel Duran. He's supposed to be the shortstop of the future, but because you got Seager and Simeon in the heart of your diamond, he's playing left field now. And he's one of those borderline guys that if you look at his numbers, he could find his way on the All-Star team. If he
Guys, we're worried about, by the way, we're worried about the big league team, and this is something that we need to really think about. We're not going to do it tonight because we're ending the show. But like we always talk about like who's going to be the big league manager and who's going to be the big league pitching coach. The White Sox need to start focusing on like we need to put our best coach and pay a lot of money to the guy that's like in rookie ball and like start developing. Because when you look at the players that the Sox are developing compared to other teams, our numbers are just that much lower than everybody else's. That's just how it feels. Like you look at teams and you're like, wait, who's this guy? Oh, they developed him. They got picked in the 15th round. Well, who's this guy? Oh, he got picked in the 20th round. And you're like, what the hell? Like, how come the White Sox, we can't find a right fielder? Like, legitimately, we can't find, like, two guys that can compete it out for right field. We can't have a catcher that's, like, at least on paper, there's two guys that are, like, battling it out. Every team that you're out there, like, you look at guys and you're like, man, they're developing. The developing situation in the minor league system, whatever they're doing down there right now is not working. And they're worried so much about Grifol and the big – Nightengale should write an article on how the minor league system sucks and how they need to develop down there and do all this stuff, you know, and basically get players so that maybe one day you can go in and just spend all your money on one piece because all the guys that you have around your team, you know, are homegrown guys. And that's something that they were able to do in the past because the third baseman was homegrown, the center fielder was homegrown, you know, this guy was homegrown and you didn't have to go get that many, 3 of the 5 starting pitchers were homegrown. So you really could go out there and get free agents, especially during Ozzy's era. But now it seems like those guys are not homegrown guys are not very good to play every day in the big leagues, and that's unfortunate because then your money's constrained.
All right, let's wrap this up. Gonzo, what are our picks?
Well, I'm sorry to say Ozzy, but Dane Dunning's pitching Saturday versus the Blue Jays, so he's gonna miss us.
And that's it.
Yep. To go to the picks. Which before picks, by the way, Wednesday of next week, we're going to have a live game feed for the game. So we'll be live for that third game. Picks, yes. Jay got his second victory of the year.
Let's go!
Wait. Whoa. What the fuck? What?
With Graveman? How is that even possible?
Your boy just got another RBI single. What are you talking about? The whole goddamn group text today, you're talking about fucking Eloy.
Eloy Jimenez definitely won it in that last at bat to take the lead with Berger. Not only did he get a double, he scored.
You think Eloy took it?
I will log off this goddamn show right fucking now if you give it to a goddamn relief pitcher who just got shelled in his last outing.
Hey,
might as well just give it to Lynn. By the way, might as well give it to Lynn for having a good. By the way, wait, can I just take away Lynn's first inning and just go from inning 2 to inning 6?
It's not how it works.
Well, for Graveman it is.
Yeah.
You got to read those numbers again. The Eloy right now, still before we answered, he got a double.
This is great.
And scored. Legitimately.
And that was my pick, so I was going to give the win.
Then why did you change it?
Because Graveman has 2 wins for his performances this past week.
Gonzo, you're way too fucking smart to acknowledge wins as a fucking statistic, especially for a relief pitcher.
By the way, didn't he give it up and then got it back?
What was that?
Didn't he give up the lead in one of them?
Yeah, it would have been 3. It would have been 3.
That's what I mean. He gave up the lead and then his team came back. That doesn't mean it's a good win. It should be like
he didn't get any wins in his last 5 appearances.
So I said in the 2 wins, he has his performances of a save and a hold.
And so let's just ignore the fucking 2/3 of an inning where he got shelled.
I'm not ignoring it. I'm just saying, and out of those 2 wins, his performances were a part.
Aloy gets the fucking point. Aloy gets the point. You picked Aloy. You get the point.
I didn't know. I didn't want to give it to me.
Jesus, you want to give it to a goddamn relief pitcher.
But I didn't want to give him the. I didn't want to take the point based off of tonight's performance because I didn't know if
fought me the entire. We are.
I didn't know if we're counting tonight's performance.
We're counting.
By the way,
I didn't win.
So you did not win, Jay. You are definitely not winning with a relief pitcher who got shelled.
Quick question. So if I pick Benintendi and he goes deep in the week that I pick him, do I win that week automatically?
No.
I'm thinking about it.
No.
Yeah, why not?
Tim
Fuck
Anderson?
it. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
No. If you pick Benintendi and he hits a home run, I'm okay. Even if like my pick goes 9 for 12 with 8 homers, if Benintendi is your guy and he hits 1 home run, I'm on board. Automatic win.
What if I pick TA and he goes yard?
Oh, the guy who won a batting title. No, you get nothing for free.
On, man.
No.
Do better. Pick better picks.
I went with Graveman and that wasn't enough.
Clearly. All right, Gonzo gets the point. You get the first pick. And apparently Aloy is off the board.
Yes, Aloy is off the board. I'm going to go with Jake Berger tonight.
Wow.
Okay.
Who gets the second pick?
Jay.
Well, I want to win. I want to win legitly, so I'm just going to go with Yohan Moncada.
I'm going to take Billy Hamilton. Oh,
really?
He got like
wow.
All right, who do I want?
Yeah, he just got DFA today, Gonzo.
I missed that.
How do you?
Yeah.
Why are you even on
this
podcast?
I thought that was a joke.
No,
he really got let go.
Dane Dunn pitching relief is a joke.
Can I pick somebody else from the other teams?
You might have a better chance of actually getting a click. Oh, the White Sox all of a sudden are up 8-4. I missed. I don't know what happened.
They're back, baby. They're back.
The White Sox
all right,
so fucking bad.
Junior, go ahead. You taking Benny?
Oh, of course I'm taking Benny. I'm going to Benny out. Benny's going deep, baby.
Wait, Slav, I was going to have you go before him.
Okay, but I wanted to see if he was picking Benny, because then if he wasn't, I was. But I'll go. If you're going with Benny, I will take.
No. You can go pick whoever. You can go with Benny.
No. I wouldn't have taken Benny. I'm gonna go with Andrew Vaughn.
Man, no one wants Grandal.
He had some good at bats tonight. Maybe they should trade him to the Dodgers.
Again.
Again.
I've seen that movie before. So he can get benched in the playoffs?
Damn.
I don't think they would want him.
They have too many catchers coming up.
No, I will take Benny. I will take the little Benny.
Oh, I love it.
Just because, here's the thing, though, because I think he's also going to get hits. He's got to hit down the line. He's going oppo, you know.
Oh, no. If he goes 12 for 12 with 12 singles, you don't get shit. He's got to hit a home run.
Is that the first time someone picked Benny?
Probably.
No, I picked him. That's why I've been fucking losing.
Yeah, it's like Benny's not even. Yeah, Benny's. We have a bet right now on Benny's stats because he's not on. He's on pace to hit less home runs than Ozzie Guillen, which is not good. Okay. He's
I think Juan Pierre had more pop.
That's what I'm saying though. So it's like he is.
I think Nafi Perez had more pop.
And he was not sold this way. He was
Timo
sold
Perez.
I think John Garland had more pop.
By the way, Burley went deep, guys. Burley went deep in Milwaukee. He was sold as a guy that, was not a power hitter, which I get, but he would go deep once in a while because we play in a small field. Was analytical, and what analytics was saying, and all of Gonzo's people were like, "Oh, he'll play it's a small ballpark in Chicago in the summer that he hits it, the ball's gonna fly," and I guess it's not flying for him. But hopefully this week it will fly for him with 1 home run. Because he has not gone deep yet, but he has had good at bats, so I like him. And again, hopefully he starts running a little bit more. But he's 75 million. 75 million.
Which is really not a ton of money in today's Major League Baseball.
It's not, but for somebody like him, it is. Dan Pasqua.
No, for somebody on the White Sox, it is.
Oh, for someone on the White Sox, it is. But I'm saying, like, I was looking at stats and how he would compare. Guys like Dan Pasqua, Mike Huff are at home like, damn. Lance Johnson.
I played in the wrong era.
Lance Johnson's like, I played in the wrong era. I wish I could start a fist fight with Andrew Benintendi and Jerry and everybody else. Like, those guys were indentured servants at this point.
Nice reference.
Damn. Tell me how you feel.
The picks are as is here on the screen for y'all. I'm going with the Burger. Jay's going with Yo-Yo. Slav's going Vaughn. And OJ is going Benny. So are we going to...
Vaughn's nickname is my beautiful baby boy.
Wait. Is that Graven right now that's coming in? If he gives up a run, he should just lose a point for the week.
No, but if he gets the save, I win.
Let's save it. They're up by more than 4 runs.
Oh, you know what? You're right. I forgot it was 8-4.
Yeah, what a bummer. All right. Any final thoughts from you guys?
Very happy that obviously we have Scotty Pods. I like the fact that Grifol got thrown out in tonight's game. Thrown out, team makes a comeback. I like that from a manager. I like it a lot. Hopefully we'll see it. Not very hard teams that they're playing, so they're grinding it out. Got to give them credit for that. And Jake Berger needs to be an all-star. Let everybody know.
He needs to be playing every day before that.
Well, it's easier to be an all-star than have him play every day.
And yes, Kendall Graveman is on for the save right now.
I can't wait to have Pods back on. That was a great conversation.
Just a great dude. Jay, final thought.
I wish the pick to click to go better, but I went with Yohan Moncada, who actually plays baseball according to y'all, so hopefully I can win a week.
Allegedly, he does. All right, great episode. That was a lot of fun having Scotty Pods on. Shout out to him for joining us. We'll definitely have him back on. If you're listening, if you're watching, thank you so much. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Blackout Show, Chi, CHI, Facebook, Instagram. I think Gonzo's doing some TikTok stuff too. Shout out to Vision, dope show. Thank you for jumping on with us every week and listening and watching and commenting, most of all, and being a part of the conversation. White Sox trying to close this one out in LA. Nope, can of corn. 1 down. Mm-hmm. Sox 2 outs away from a win against the Dodgers. For Chris Gonzalez, for Justin Targaryen, for Ozzie Guillen Jr., for Scotty Pods, I'm Slavko Bekovic. Thank you for watching, listening, and consuming The Blackout Show.